And now, please welcome to the stage the star of Corpus Christi, Bartosz Bielenia.
Hi, hello. Thank you for staying. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Like everybody out here, I was able to see Corpus Christi, and I absolutely love this film and your performance in this film, and I want to start by talking about that. What struck me was your eyes in this film. They tell so much of the story without dialogue. And so, at first I was thinking maybe with the questions tonight you could answer them just by looking at the audience, and we can read your answer. But it might be harder to see from out there. So, but on that note, I do want to say part of that is because Daniel is such a well-written character. He's got multiple identities, and I'm really curious because I can't see this film without you. Were you involved with this film at all in its development or the character and the script process?
Thank you for your compliment on my eyes. I will tell it to my mom. It's thanks to her, I think. And it's also thanks to our cinematographer, Bartosz Bielenia. That was his idea to stay on the still frame on my face. And yeah, it's thanks to him and like his commitment to my eyes. But answering your question, yes, there was a lot of work on the script. We were even improvising on set. For example, during masses, I was improvising all the speeches. So after a few takes, you were getting used to what you were saying, but at the very beginning, they were like improvised. And also before we start shooting, we took the script, we cut it into the scenes, we put it on the board, and we just thought how to arrange them in the story. So the first script, the first draft of the script was a starting point for us. And also, shout out to Bartosz Bielenia again. He had a huge impact on the story, and also how we developed it and how we were developing it on the set. Also, we were talking a lot with Jan Komasa, because we had the opportunity to almost shoot in chronological order. So we knew what we did already and what we wanted to achieve. So we were developing the script and the story, the character, meantime. So we knew what we want to took out of it, and what we want to put into it more.
At the beginning of this film, it says it's inspired by true events, and I'm curious if you could tell us how close this adhered to that true story, and if you were able to research the original faux father that this is based on.
Before we started doing this film, I decided to avoid the real story. Our scriptwriter wrote the article about this a few years before he wrote the script. But I decided not to read this article at all, and not to talk, and not to discuss, and not to dive into this real story, because we wanted to make our own world for this character, for this message that we wanted to spread. And the story of the real guy was a little bit funnier, because he wasn't so good. He was drifting around the church in his car. He was drinking beer. He was tricky for his small village. He wasn't like this. He didn't want to heal them. He was having a great time there. So that maybe made them suspicious about his behavior. Made them suspicious, and that's why they called police, maybe. So Fast and Furious, like Corpus Christi edition. It was kind of this adventure. So yeah, and I learned about it more after we made the film and we started to promote it. So I read about him and I read the article. I've never met him, but yeah, he's somewhere out there with his wife and children.
So early in the film, you definitely, more than the other young men in the detention center, you really gravitate toward the religion that's there. And I definitely could see that spark of devotion in your eye. And I had to wonder, have you yourself ever considered joining the priesthood?
Okay, to be honest, yes, there was this time, because for many years I was deeply involved in the Catholic Church till I was 19 or something. Then I slowly drifted with books and my experience out of this structure. But till then, I was really seeking for the answer. I was raised in the Catholic Church. I was really searching for a spiritual path and spiritual answer for the divine questions. So yes, there was this time, but it was more kind of performative aspect of it, being on stage in church, like speaking, talking to people, and reading, having this contact with the divine. All alone by yourself there in front of people. So, and later I found it in theater, so maybe this fulfilled my need to contact with divine.
So you basically play two characters in this, one false and one real, but I'm curious who you relate more to, Daniel or Father Tomas?
That's a tricky question. I don't know really, because there are those, without there's this thing that we're getting to know him in the point of his life that he's kind of obsessed with Priest Tomasz. So he is a huge part of his character. He's a core of him. Like he starts to build himself again on the back of Priest Tomasz. So maybe those two characters are. It's very hard to me to separate them. And that's why it's so hard for me to choose, because there are some parts of each of them, and on both sides, maybe they're kind of two sides of the same coin. Or maybe if Daniel had this possibility of going to seminary, he would turn out to be Father Tomasz. I don't know. To be honest, I don't know.
So this film, Corpus Christi, and a number of the films that you have done, including The High Frontier, Disco Polo, The Time of a Young Man About to Kill, they're very dark films, very dark and at times violent dramas. And I'm curious, are you a fan of that kind of cinema yourself, or are you really a romantic comedy guy just dying to do some family films with some talking animals?
Yes. Yes, that's me. I would love to play in a film with a dog. Not a John Wick. Like probably they would, I would be driven towards that. I don't know. Yeah. It could be fun. But yes, there is this, I don't know why, maybe those eyes. But I can't play when I'm trying to be kind, it turns that I'm psychotic. So yeah, but I would love to play like Dr. Dolittle or some kind of this thing, or some like 100 Days of Summer.
Well, I'm sure talking to animals in the film probably has all its own challenges.
Psychotic, like talking to animals, I don't know.
So your performance in Corpus Christi has brought you a lot of acclaim and really put you on the international stage, and you've won a lot of awards from this, including the European Shooting Stars 2020, or the Silver Hugo at the Chicago International Film Festival, or Best Actor at the Palm Springs International Film Festival. And now that this is kind of putting you at a new stage, I think it's going to open you up to the ability to choose more projects as opposed to just auditioning for what's out there. I'm curious what filmmakers, and not just American, but just international, what filmmakers would you really like to work with in the future?
We were talking a little bit before. I would love to work with David Lynch. That's not 100 Days of Summer for sure. Charlie Kaufman, that's lighter. I love this director. With Lars von Trier, after the house that Jack built, I love this film. Yeah, but I would love to work with Taika Waititi, for example. He's very funny and I think interesting, full of imagination director.
Well, we do play a lot of David Lynch and Lars von Trier here. I have a feeling we're going to be seeing you back on our screen in the near future. Going back to Corpus Christi, I would like to ask, personally, where do you see Daniel going once this film fades out? Do you see a positive future for him?
I hear this question pretty often, but it's very hard for me to find this answer, because when we're shooting this scene, I never thought where I was running. I heard cut when I was in the middle of some bushes on the field every time, and there was a fence. So I was always finding myself in kind of they were breaking this animalistic, run from danger, and I never thought where I was running while we were shooting it. I never thought about it. I was just going for it. So there's no answer from me. I don't know. I know as much as you know watching the film. Yeah, when I was watching it, I also asked myself this question: is there any hope? I don't know. Maybe.
I think the audience definitely is rooting for Daniel.
Yeah, there's gonna be sequel.
Corpus Christi 2.
Corpus Christi 2, pretending to be rabbi. Yeah, there was this one guy in Poznan, in Poland. He was pretending to be a rabbi for like 10 years. So it's real. So can happen.
Now I would like to ask if you can tell us about any of your upcoming projects, including Primetime.
Oh, deep research. Like really. Okay, so Primetime. It's a project that we're developing in Poland. We're gonna shoot it in a few months, and it's a story about the guy who's breaking into TV during New Year's Eve, and he's taking hostages. Yeah, and with a gun, and yes, he wants to say something, and we don't know what it is. And the film is about those few hours of him talking with police, with his family, and trying to deliver this message, which we don't know what it is.
I can't wait.
And we would never know.
We'll find out when it plays on the Nuart screen in the future, I'm sure. Now I'd like to open it up to some audience questions. Yes, right here.
What were some of your bigger challenges in making the movie?
In terms of which scene, for example?
Well, just sort of the overall, like capturing the character. Was it difficult figuring out how to play him, and did you have a lot of independence in trying to figure out how the character would act, or was there a lot of interplay with the director and others?
There was a lot of independence in the creation. We created this kind of atmosphere that everyone felt as a part of this film, a part of this creation. He was asking everyone for advice, but not in a way that I don't know what to do, but how we going to contribute to this idea. So he left a lot of space for me to create and to discuss what we want. He was also very often pretty direct on what we wanted to achieve, but there was still a very open spectrum for me to try between takes. But I think the biggest challenge for me was being aware all the time about this and being unprepared. It's a big freedom. At the very beginning, it seemed to me that it's easy, just don't be prepared. Don't know things. But it turns to be very hard after 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 takes from different angles, and being aware and unprepared all the time. It was the biggest challenge.
Yes, on the side.
So your facial expressions in the film, they're so subtle that at one moment you can look like a badass, and yet you could look so forgiving, or like people want to forgive you. So I'm curious if the screenwriter or screenplay writer had you in mind at the time, or did you try out for this film and win them over?
Yeah, I was casted on the Ordinary casting. I was waiting in line. I was auditioning for it for 3 or 4 times before they called me. So yeah, to be honest, at the very beginning, it was supposed to be that the guy Pincher was coming to the other guy who was coming to the city afterwards. He was supposed to play this character, but they were still searching for someone else, and then I appeared. So it was a little bit, when I learned about it, I was a little bit, struggling with that. But in the end, it turned, this connection with him also was very, very interesting and very strong for us. But I was auditioning for it, like Ordinary.
Yes.
Do you think the film is critical or supportive of religion?
It's supportive for spirituality, I think, and it's supportive for love, and it's supportive for the search of divine, for sure. I can imagine that this kind of story could happen in any kind of religion, in any kind of structure also, but especially in this. Oh my God, you hear the dog all the time on your laps. That's so cute. Sorry, I'm just sorry. And so yeah, it's I don't think that it's supporting Catholicism, but it's supporting divine in any kind of gathering, because we need like priests, shamans, people who are connected to our spiritual, to our not really understandable world, and I hopefully my character was channeling something out of it, out of this world, unconsciously.
I have to add to that there definitely seemed to be something very universal in this film, and that I could see this taking place in Middle America as well as any other country. Just the way people hold on to religion, and it's not so much that the religion I found to be bad in this as people who would break the rules and not necessarily be aware of it, or wouldn't completely follow by the teachings that they were supporting. So it really seemed very universal.
Yeah, they want even to make TV series out of it. From what I've heard, I don't know if it's going to work out, but there are some people who are interested in extending it into the series. So yeah, it seems to be pretty universal.
Yes, do the question there.
Were there any scenes that you shot for the movie that were maybe cut for time that you wish we could have seen?
Yes, there was a fight with Pincher, and next to the big, there was a big mechanic saw, and we were fighting with each other, and he grabbed my leg, and he was taking it to the saw, and then he took out the shoe, and we were rumbling around, and I was running away, and he threw the shoe on me. It was a very nice scene. That's a pity that you couldn't, it was cut out, but it was better for the rhythm. But still, it was a nice action scene. Did in a few takes.
Yes, over on the side.
So, if you were in the position of the real priest, or like the other young convict, I forget the character's name, I'm sorry, but if you were someone who knew who Daniel, your character, really was, and you found him pretending to be a priest, do you think you would expose him, or would you leave him be and let him continue preaching?
I would leave him to continue preaching, but his situation was way different. Probably he turned him out because of different reasons, not because he thought that it's wrong what he was doing. Maybe he needed something back in juvie. We don't know. But I would leave it. He's doing a good message.
Yes, toward the back.
What was your favorite day on set?
Yeah, maybe the fighting scene, the last one. Yeah, it was fun to do it. It was fun. It was it was choreography. It was like dance. So and it was almost in the end of our work. So it was, maybe because it was so different from all other stuff that we did through our shooting. Because as I told you, that I was forced to be very aware for all the time. So in this scene, I was just dancing, and also the scene in when we were having a big party in the city. That was fun because they were shooting it from 2 cameras, and we were just having fun around, playing with people. There is this one beat, one very short beat in this sequence that I'm standing with some old ladies, and I'm pretty shocked about what they're talking about, and one of them told a very kinky joke, very, very kinky joke. And I was really, really, really surprised about that. And I could see her pleasure in her eyes when she could tell that joke to the guy dressed as a priest. So yeah, it was fun also.
Yes.
Just a very quick question. How old was Daniel supposed to be? Because juvie here, I think, was up to age 18. So I don't know if it goes up to 21 in Poland.
In Poland, you're forced to leave juvie when you're 21.
Okay.
So he was, and he wasn't leaving it permanently. There is this law that he was leaving it for some time to socialize with people. They gave him permission to leave for some time to socialize with other people, to work, to try normal life, not to be only closed in jury for whole of his sentence. So he probably would be forced to go back anyway in some time.
Thanks.
Any last questions? Yes, all the way back.
A few times during the film, during the church scene, when you're singing, do you have a passion for that? Because you have a very good voice. I did enjoy those scenes.
Thank you. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I like singing, maybe some musical, La La Land too. Yeah, I enjoyed it a lot. To be honest, I was singing in a church for many years, so I also got this. I put this experience in that film.
Well, we'll do one more right there on the end.
How long were you on set? Like, how long did it take to film?
30 days. So it's 30 days. It's normal range of shooting days in Poland. Yeah, it's 30, 33. It's a feature film.
Well, I want to thank you so much, Bartosz Bielenia, for joining us tonight. I want to thank everybody for coming out to this tonight. And remember, we have this film opening for its regular week-long run on February 28th. So please tell your friends and come back. Thank you.